Good morning, everyone. Doug Burge, Superintendent of Schools for the Zillow School District. I want to talk to you about potentially bringing kids back on campuses and share with you a little bit about some hybrid learning options that we are looking at for the Zillow School District. As we plan and prepare, currently we're looking at some potential options to get students back on campuses. We do not have a return date. We do not have a timetable for this right now. We're working closely with the Department of Health, Yakima County Department of Health, and they will soon be giving us some recommendations for county schools to consider to get back in school on campuses in a limited role, meaning a hybrid role. We will have to follow health and safety protocols, and we also know that the 6 foot physical distancing rule has to be considered, so that limits numbers of students on campuses. But we'll be looking at two options: an AB cohort model and an AM PM cohort model, and I'm going to discuss in brief a little bit about those so you understand what those may look like. The first one I'm going to talk about is the AB cohort model. And the AB cohort model is simply you have an A group, half your students, um, and your A group comes on Mondays and Tuesdays, and in a traditional day and a traditional time frame. So if you're an elementary student, roughly 8 to 2:30, and if you're a secondary student, roughly 8 to 2:45. So the A group would come on Monday, Tuesday. On Wednesday, the Wednesday's a virtual day for everyone. You would have live Zoom meetings with your teachers on Wednesdays. Thursday and Friday, those students in the A group would be at home. They would not be on campus. They would be doing asynchronous activities, extended activities given to them previously by their instructor. No live instruction would happen on Thursday and Friday for the A group. Now that B group is just the opposite. They have the asynchronous activities on Monday and Tuesday. They would not be on campus. No live instruction those days. Wednesday, they'd be part of that distance learning model. Those Zooms, the distance piece with teachers, and then Thursday and Friday they would be on school. So just flip flop. So that's a little bit about what the AB cohort schedule would look like. And again, those things could look a little different in each building, but some of the things to consider in an AB cohort model is food service. On a somewhat traditional model, those kids that were on campus would have a breakfast and lunch option during the day as somewhat traditional, and those kids that weren't on campus, there'd be some type of meal distribution. Student groupings, you still can't congregate, you still can't have large groups in a commons area to eat food. You'd have to look at each building space. Potentially, you would be eating in classrooms, even in the breakfast setting. Transportation, would that be affected? Of course it would. With this, you have half the number of students potentially on buses, but it might change pickup drop-off times obviously a little bit, because those things could be affected by we might not have as many routing issues with less kids on buses. And families are encouraged still to bring their students to school, pick them up after school hours. If you have any transportation concerns with kids on buses. Health safety protocols would be followed. The masking requirement for students and staff would be throughout the day, other than if they were eating meals. And even that would be extended to electives, potential recesses, music classes, PE, and those things. Modifications would be looked at for each specific situation. AM/PM cohort model is a little bit easier to probably understand. If you're in an AM group, then all those students come in the morning every day, Monday through Friday, and that would be from a approximately 8 to 10:30 time frame. Then when they would leave us, they would go home and they'd have asynchronous activities, extended activities, learning activities from their teacher before they came back the next day. If you were in the PM group, just the opposite. You would come in somewhere around the time frame of 12:45, potentially to 3:15. You'd be involved in the afternoons, and your asynchronous activities could take place in the mornings. One of the things you got to think about in this model is that there is an extended period of time at lunchtime, and that is built in there from 10:30 to 10:30 to 12:45. It's built in there for the transportation, because you're going to have a couple extra routes. You're going to have a morning route, two midday routes, and then a PM route. So that builds a little bit more time in there. At that time, it also builds some more time in to properly clean the classrooms from cohort A, the AM cohort to the PM cohort. So that's what that would look like. And then also the teachers have a lunch break in there. They would have possibly some planning time and prep time at that time in the middle of the day. That's what that may look like. Again, both models, the AB cohort or the AM cohort model, one of the first criteria would be based on family units, physical addresses, because if we had siblings that you had siblings in 2 or 3 buildings in the district, we'd want them to be going either in the A cohort together, no matter what buildings they were in, or the AM or PM cohort. So that would be a big factor in how we set this all up. Some things to consider in the AM PM cohort. There's a potential that we probably would not serve breakfast and lunch on campus. And in the AM PM cohort, they would come in and they'd either get a grab and go as they left us. If your AM group came in and when they were leaving, they'd get their lunch for that day and their breakfast for the next day if they chose to do that. Or there's a potential if we could still do it, we might be able to do it again like the way we're doing it currently, is where we have a time in the week and we try to distribute meals for the district at one time in a 5-day period. So those are all things we're looking at. But it looks like even if you were in the PM group, we wouldn't have food service actually served on campuses. They would grab and go also as they were leaving us, or they would have the one-time stop during the week. That would eliminate some of the congregation and some of the need for eating without masks on campuses. Transportation, again, would be affected more significantly in this model based on the AB or the AM/PM, just because you'd have more routes. Again, we think there would be a lot less students riding the buses potentially, and we could be more efficient with the routing and maximize our times, our picks and our drops. So those are things we'd all look at. Health and safety protocols, again, those models would be about 2.5 hours a day for students. The masking requirement would obviously be shortened to half a day. That might be easier for some of our groups of students. But also the social distancing, the physical distancing would stay the same. We're going to continue to work on that, and how we deal with specials and electives and recesses, if you will, at the elementary. Distance learning option. There still will be a distance learning option. We heard this loud and clear when we when we had a survey in the summer before we went to the model that we started with in August. There are many families that still said we want to have a distance learning option for our students, and we understand that, and we would offer distance learning even with whatever hybrid model we use. We know there's going to be a distance piece. Now remember though, the distance learning model will look different, and there's just no way it can look the same as it does now. One thing we'd try to be very cognizant about and make sure that parents understood is that you have to declare, we'd like to use a semester time frame, because we can't have people jump in and out of distance learning into a hybrid model. There's just too many factors in play there. But one of the things I want to tell you is that it may look a little different. High school, secondary schools may utilize Edgenuity, which we've used before last spring. It's standardized curriculum that matches up with our Washington State standards. It does meet the need, and it may be monitored by some of our teachers. That is one option to look at. It really will be building specific, but again, I want to focus on that the distance learning piece would be different, very much so. And in the elementary levels, if you think of it this way, I'm going to use this analogy, is that if you have 80 first graders and in our school district, and we have 4 teachers, so just roughly you have 20 students in a classroom. Let's say 20 first grade families decide, you know what, I want the distance model. So then what we'd look at is potentially in a situation like that is that we might have 3 teachers for those 60 that want in-person learning, and 1 teacher would be a distance learning teacher for those 20. So it really becomes challenging, but we know that is a route we want to have offerings for, and we want to make sure that that we can serve our students in some capacity at that level. Next steps. So we want to make sure that you're going to do a survey soon. We're going to ask all families to complete a survey, and you're going to give us your choice of A, B, or AM, PM. We're going to open it up today, Friday, September 25th. We're going to let the survey stay open till the end of the day on Tuesday, September 29th. We know this is a short time frame, but it's very important because we're trying to get as much information as we can from our community. We're working with our staff, all staff, certified and classified staff members to get information from them. We want to make sure that we land on the model that the most people want. Once we make that decision, sooner than later on the hybrid model that is preferred, then we are going to ask again for some more information. We're going to send out something to families of students because we want a declaration of what students and families will want. We need to know how many students are going to take the distance model. We need to know if you're going to need transportation, because those are all significant factors as we plan with staffing, as we plan for and prepare for when we can get kids back on campus. So that's very important. And we want you to make sure you ask questions if you have them. Please, please, please send your questions my way. You can call the district office, or you can, our emails are listed there. Justin Arian, our assistant superintendent, special program director. If you have specific questions that might pertain to special programs, I think he would be the one to answer any questions that may come your way, may come his way if you need to. Jeff Charbonneau, who is our distance learning coordinator, as well as our middle school principal. Just remember that he will be working very closely with staff and also helping us develop a distance learning model that will be a piece of the hybrid model. So the distance learning coordinator, Jeff, will be able to answer questions if you have any questions about distance learning. The key here is that here's the link for the survey. Again, it's open till the end of the day on Tuesday. We want you to, share this information with others. Make sure that they have the ability to, or at least let them know that they can fill out the survey. We want to get this done as rapidly and get as much input as we can. And I will tell you that anything we do, a hybrid model is one of the most difficult things to pull off in our planning and what we're trying to do, but we understand it might be the best thing for kids at this time. So we want to do it right. We're not going to rush into it. We're going to look at the recommendations when they come out from the Department of Health. We are then going to make decisions that will be best, that will fit our district, the Zillah School District, the best, and make good, sound decisions on what and where we go from there. And so we're not going to rush into it. I want to echo that. The first and foremost thing we're going to look at is the safety of our students and our staff as we move forward. And we want to make sure you understand that. And please, 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 if you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact us. We want to make sure that we hear our families' thoughts. We want to land on the right hybrid model. We want to make sure our programs are successful, our students are successful as we move forward. Thank you very much. Have a great day.